Hi, I'm Joe Chisholm from Rebellion Dogs Publishing.
And I'm Bill Schaberg, the author of 30 Things, Practical Advice for Living Well. And today I want to talk about the first chapter in that book. Loving somebody means acting as if their happiness is important to you.
I read the topic, loving someone means acting as if their happiness is important to me. I know immediately that's true. And I feel overwhelmed. But what you do in this chapter for me is you persuade me to treat love as a verb, not a noun, an action thing, and just sort of show me that uh, we've both heard if you want to feel good, do good, do good, feel good. So that's kind of what you outlined for me in this chapter.
Adopting this particular piece of advice has just been spectacular in changing my life here at home with my lady Sarah. And a lot of times people seem to think that this is just a hugely difficult thing to be doing in your life, but it's not. Most of this stuff is really very, very simple. And that's what I'm talking about is the simple things. What I love is the way this chapter opens with a story about a man getting out of bed every morning and going downstairs and making a special cup of coffee for his wife and bringing it to her in bed. Not a big deal. Not a big deal at all. It's just exactly those kinds of things, those kind of small things. If I can just stop thinking it's me first, oh, it's all about me here, and it's really all about her. In my case here, the lady Sarah in my home, then everything changes.
Everything changes. Now, you write a lot of examples in 30 things, but can you offer people here today an example that you didn't put in the book?
Well, Joe, there's a lot of examples that didn't go in the book. Probably the one that comes to mind immediately is the mail. I love mail. I really love mail. And I was coming home with regularity and walking in the house and going immediately to the spot where the mail has been placed on the counter, and I'm looking at the mail. And one of those days, my lady Sarah said that she felt very ignored and even disrespected by the fact that I completely was obsessed with looking at the mail first thing when I walked in the door. And I didn't really realize it was having that kind of an impact on her, but she was very clear communicating that that was exactly the case. Now, is this a tough fix? No, this is not a tough fix at all. What I have to do here is walk in the house, and before I look at the mail, I need to be talking to my wife a little bit. Not a big deal, but in fact, it made all kinds of changes in our relationship with this choreography that had been happening every single day when I came home from work, and now the choreography is different. It's just doing a little bit different dance here.
Uh, you're not asking, and I'm wondering if you can speak to this, you're not asking people to be completely giving up their own identity, to be codependent, to be a doormat in the popular vernacular.
No, no, that is not. It is just not even close to what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about not becoming someone who just is subservient to the other person. I'm talking about being in a partnership with the other person and making the other person's point of view and their wants and their needs the first things that I'm going to try to pay attention to rather than insisting on my own self-centered uh, needs and wants, But it's clear that this is something we all struggle with, I think, as human beings. I mean, selfishness, self-centeredness, that we thought was the root of our problem. And it is the root of our problem.
Right. So it works when both people are thinking this way and sort of buying into this. You've talked about Sarah. My Mary was at our book launch for this, and people were they were struggling trying to articulate, what's the elevator pitch for this book? How would you describe it to someone? And Mary said, Bill, you've written a love story. And that really, like, I heard that. I heard that this really touched her and this is what she wants. And I got that. But then the problem is, how do I know what she wants? And I spent a lot of time thinking I should know. I should be able to figure it out by myself.
Yes, unfortunately, that's another one of those built-in things we all seem to have is especially male people in Western civilization. You got the whole white horse guy in a white horse syndrome coming here. Of course, I'm going to be able to figure it out and I'm going to save you. And that's not even close to what we're talking about here. One of the hard things, you're exactly right, is finding out what it is that's going to make the other person happy. And a lot of times I have this wonderful confidence in my own mind reading abilities. I know exactly what she's looking for. But the fact of the matter is, sometimes I'm way off on those things, and I pay a price for being way off on those things. So what I really need to do is to sit down with my lady Sarah and ask her what it is that's going to be making her happy. Sometimes in a particular situation, and sometimes just in general. One of those sit down and say, "So how am I doing, honey?" And once in a while, I get a big, big high five kudos. And sometimes she says, "You know what?" And the next thing I know, I'm putting something else on my to-do list to that needs to be changed because that's what's going to make Sarah happy.
Mic drop. Like that is so true for me because I mean, I've been confronted with this, right? Joe, just like you said, it's that male thing, right? So that somehow I'm supposed to know, somehow I'm supposed to anticipate. And what I was told by someone who cared and frustrated with my, you know, lack of ability to just ask, said, Joe, your job is to show up, right? Just be here, be present. And asking is easy in that sort of situation. And for me, what this chapter helped me see is, that's just being self-absorbed again, thinking that I'm independent, that I can anticipate, that I should know. That's just as selfish as not caring about what will make somebody else happy.
Yeah, yes, once again, we come back to this self-centeredness thing.
Mhm.
Again, as I said, it's a default position. But if both people in a relationship, and it's important for both people to be doing this for it to be really working, but if both people in the relationship can try and set aside their own wants and needs, not abandon them, but just put them in a secondary position. That's what we're talking about. Putting them in a secondary position to the other person's wants and needs. And if both people are in a relationship are working to keep each other happy, oh my Lord, everything changes. Literally everything changes. And I need a lot of help reminding myself of this sometimes. And my lady Sarah's pretty good about bringing it to my attention when I'm egregious about those kind of things. I appreciate that when she does that. I value that from her. That's what makes her such a great partner for me.
There's a whole lot about attachment theory, about secure attachment and unsecure attachment, but you don't get into like going through the litany, the inventory of ways of doing it wrong. Just here's a simple way to act as if somebody's happiness is important, act as if or model a good, healthy relationship. I love that.
Yeah, and we all get caught up in words all the time. It's as I mean, you mentioned codependency before. Sarah and I we saw a couple therapists for a couple of years, and he was a brilliant guy, and he helped us out tremendously with a lot of the things that end up showing up in this book. But we used to tell him that we were happily codependent, and he just hated that. He
Right.
hated that. But you know what? In reality, that's really how it works in my house here. We are happily codependent on each other. She's trying to make sure that I'm a happy guy, and I'm trying to make sure that she's a happy lady. And when we do that, as I said before, as I'll say again, as I'll say over and over again, everything changes, and it changes for the better.
Yeah, it's all a spectrum, codependent, interdependent. It's just a matter of having some balance. And you really point that out, which I think is important for readers. Now, if we're done for this chapter, I would just like to invite readers to visit either rebelliondogspublishing.com or 30thingsthebook.com. You can read some sample chapters, including this one in its entirety, and there's information for ordering the book. Thanks again, Bill, for writing the book and for doing this. I think this is going to be a great little series.
Thank you, Joe.